In the second half of Brew in the Bag brewing electric style, I will finish the wort boil and transfer it into the fermenter. The recipe calls for pearl hops to be added for the whole 60-minute boil, so in they go. Some of the steam kind of rolls out from my hood, so I like to add some curtains on the side to help keep the steam going up during the boil. They're just hooked on screws. The exhaust fan is from a gardening supply house that's meant for indoor use. If you've got indoor plants growing, that you can exhaust the CO2 filled air to the outside. It's about 400 CFM and it easily pulls all the moisture out. I don't smell any brewing smells when I'm done with the brew process. It's all sucked outside. So now I'm going to empty my brew in a bag and just try and get all the grains into a garbage bag. Then it's just about 10 minutes of rinsing it out at the sink to get all the spent grains out of the bag. You don't have to get every last little bit since it's only used before the boil. It doesn't have to be perfectly clean. If it was something in the after boil where it's fermented and perfectly sanitary, or not fermented but boiled and sanitary, then you'd have to clean it perfectly, but not in this case. Maybe 20 minutes left in the boil. I like to put my wort cooling coil in. Putting it in a little bit ahead of time helps sanitize it so that when you need to cool it off right before you put your wort into the fermenter, it's sanitized and doesn't introduce anything that you don't want. To the end of our boil. It's been an hour. We're going to turn the power off to the heating element, make sure it's completely dead, and open our Whirlpool pump so it's going full. That'll get things moving around in there, nice fogging of the lens. But that Whirlpool action will settle out the trub into a nice pile down in the bottom center. And then we turn on our cooling water. Water goes down the drain. We watch our temperature plummet with the nice Whirlpool action and the immersion chiller. And usually it takes about 15 minutes to get down to pitching temperature. I usually let it whirlpool another 10 minutes or so just to help the trub pile settle out in the bottom middle of the pot. While we wait for the wort to cool, sanitized my fermenter, mixed up some Star San and sloshed it around for a bit, let it settle down into the collection ball at the bottom. And remove that collection ball and it'll be fully sanitized, so when the wort is done whirlpooling and cooling, it'll go right in. After 13 minutes of cooling with the immersion chiller and the Whirlpool action, it's down to about 85 degrees. I'll try and get it down below 80, down to 77 or so before I turn the water off. It's summer right now, so the water coming from the faucet's a little bit warm, so I don't know how much below 80 it'll get. So you can see the Whirlpool action is spinning it around on the outside. The immersion chiller kind of interrupts the Whirlpool, but it still makes a nice trub pile right in the center. You can only see it once the liquid drains down. It kind of appears at the end of the... It's been about 25 minutes of running tap water through the immersion cooling coil. It's not getting below 78, so I'll just have to leave it as is and cool it with the external cooler. Alright, we are done whirlpooling, so I'm going to take the recirculation tube and put it into the fermenter and transfer the wort into the fermenter. So it's going to come out of there and go into this waiting fermenter. So now the liquid's going down as it's being transferred into the fermenter. Kind of spraying it on the side of the fermenter so it thins it out and collects some oxygen on the way. Helps the yeast get started when the wort is oxygenated. There's the serpentine heating element. And there's the trub pile just starting to appear. That element's probably, the top of the element's probably 3 inches up, so the trub pile is about 2 inches. Now I'm going to watch my hose in case I start sucking up a bunch of trub. I don't want that in the fermenter, so I'll shut it off real quick. Starting to get some trub. Alright, that's all she wrote. Turn my pump off. And there's a nice little trub pile. Oh, isn't that cute? That's all the stuff we did not want in our fermenter. There's, I don't know, maybe a quart of wort left, but that's all the schmucky stuff, so that can stay in there. Pitch the wort is next. I forgot to take a specific gravity reading, so I'm going to try pumping out some wort. We got our wort now to take our specific gravity, and we will float our little specific gravity checker in that and see what we get. The stand that is holding the fermenter right now is like a flower pot stand that you see floral displays. They'll have a pot of flowers sitting on the top, so works pretty good when you cut the bottom out of it to hold up the fermenter about the height that you want to work at it with, because it gets kind of heavy when it's full. Now next I'll move the fermenter over to the temperature control chamber. This is the temperature control chamber that'll bring the wort down below ambient temperature to the 72 degrees that the dry yeast wants to be fermented at. There's a temperature probe that goes into the side there, so it's reading the exact temperature of the wort. And then some spiral round copper cooling coils with chilled glycol, propylene glycol, so it's food safe in there. And then there's a little brew pie consisting of the Raspberry Pi running BrewPi software, and then the Arduino that actually turns things on and off and reads the temperature probes. So we'll wait for it to cool down to 72 degrees and then pitch our yeast. Now we are ready to pitch our dry yeast, so we need to sanitize the scissors and the package before we dump it in. This is just Star San mixed up. Try and get the stuff out of the top of the package. And that is pitching the yeast. Now we'll have to fill up our bubble lock to keep the CO2 flowing out and no oxygen flowing in. Here's our bubble lock. I just use Star San for the bubbling. And that is ready to ferment. And one of the nice things about cleaning up in the sink is you can just kind of put everything back in. Put some PBW in your water and just let the pump run, and that's kind of how you clean up. It's pretty easy. Then you can just kind of walk away and come back when it's convenient for you. Now we're 24 hours after pitching the yeast. The yeast are happily doing their thing, bubbling away. This is looking exactly like it's supposed to. I like leaving the cap off so the bubbles don't back up. It's fine making a mess like this. Alright. This concludes part 2 of Brew in the Bag Brewing electric style. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe below for more videos. Thanks.